trying to. Oh,
I'm gonna start recording.
yeah, I saw it.
Okay.
You know, we have some questions asked previously if the presenter is able to kind of like share the recorded version, because some of them are unable to join us. We have 27 people that is meant to join us. I can see that the participation has increased to 15 participants. Yeah, let us continue to wait a little tiny bit before we start.
I'm okay to share with you guys the recordings, definitely.
Okay,
yeah,
that,
so
that
I'm
is
happy to
very
share
kind
with
of
you guys.
you. Yeah, because some of them, our speakers say, oh, it's they don't want the materials to be reformatted, so they say no, I cannot share. So that's very kind of you to share with us. Appreciate.
So what I can actually do is I can put it onto my YouTube, and then
Oh, you have
you
a
guys,
YouTube?
yeah. I mean, well, I actually have a Facebook page where I just do a lot of education on it.
Oh, great.
And sometimes some of my teachings are actually shared on the Facebook page. But yeah, I'm more than happy to put it on YouTube and then actually share with you the link on the YouTube as well.
Oh, great.
So my thing is recording, right? Just to make sure.
Some of them just come back from lunch.
Yes.
Yeah, so we give them a little one more.
Yeah, no worries.
The Singapore team might be very excited about going out to eat, you see. Freedom Day was started since yesterday.
Yes. I did that yesterday, actually. My husband took a day off yesterday because it was
What was the experience? How do you like it?
We had Japanese yesterday.
Okay, great. You managed to get a seat. I'm surprised.
Oh, it's because we were really early, because my kids eat really early, so around like 6 o'clock. So yeah, I don't think people finish work at 6 o'clock so early.
Damn. Okay, we have 26 participants. Maybe we just give like 1 more minute. Thank you for those who have just joined us. Just give us like maybe 1 more minute for more people to join us. We have 26 participants.
Have y'all taken your jab?
Yes, me. I have.
I still have to wait until 20th of August.
Because you're younger? Because you go by age, right?
Not really. I think initially I think they start by age first, but then because after that, I was like so reluctant to do it because needles.
Okay. Don't be afraid. It will be gone. It feels like an ant bite. Of course, a red, huge ant bite. Hi, Eric. Thank you for joining us and giving us a hi. Appreciate the attendance.
Hi.
Okay. So we have 30 participants. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Citibank, Joel, for sponsoring this event. Perhaps you could take it away. Thank you, Joel.
Hi, my name is Joelle. So I'm from Citibank. So in a short while, right, I might send Serena and EDM for Mooncake Festival so that you guys can actually enjoy something really like early bird discount. So this talk is actually by Karen from Precious Wellness. So she's actually a seasoned speaker with audiences from Singapore, Malaysia, Australia, and Europe. So she's a certified aromatherapist and certified wellness coach. So I will hand over the talk to her so that she can actually share all the how to improve your productivity.
Okay, thank you so much, Serena. Thank you so much, Joel, for actually introducing me, and thank you, Citibank and Vodaphone, for actually inviting me onto the platform. So I hope you guys had a good lunch, and I hope none of you are feeling way too sleepy at the moment. So today, the topic that we are gonna cover is improving productivity, focus, memory, mental clarity, and essential oils. And I know that after lunch is always it's always a sleepy period. So instead of being a one-way street webinar, I am gonna get you guys to participate and to talk, and so that you won't fall asleep with me, okay, on this session. So before I start, I need to actually have a bit of a disclaimer, because the information here is not meant to diagnose, treat, or prevent any disease, okay? So if you have a medical condition, please consult your physicians or your doctors before using essential oils. And essential oils are always complementary, okay? Complementary to your medication, complementary to your existing treatment with your doctors, yeah? So as how Joelle actually introduced, I am Karen. I'm a certified wellness coach and an aromatherapist. And I have helped over 100 families in their journey of improving their wellness. And a lot of them, after they engage me, they would say that, I've been able to actually sleep better. My pain, some of them have pain, chronic pain, if they've seen a chiropractor and they say, it still doesn't help. But they came to me and we did a special blend, and it helped them with the pain. And of course, those with stress and those with anxiety have actually said that their stress and their anxiety has been managed better. But what is closest to my heart as well, being in this profession, is that being able to help moms. If you are a mom, you know that how stressful it is when your kids are sick. And it is such a blessing to have moms come back to me and say, you know what, my kids are able to, their days of in the doctors, visiting the doctors have actually reduced. And I have better control in managing their wellness. I have better control in helping them with focus and to sleep better. Okay, so how did I actually get into essential oils? My background, I used to be a chartered accountant. I got my chartership in the UK, and I was in mergers and acquisitions, and I did help business sell their companies and buy companies. But what made me change my line of work was actually my family's health. Okay, my son was actually sick continuously when he was barely a year old, and that time I was desperate, and I went into oils, and I managed to actually turn around his health within 6 weeks. And touch wood, since that day, he's never been back on antibiotics. It doesn't mean that he doesn't fall sick. He does fall sick. But what I was able to do is that I was able to help him to get better holistically, okay, and to boost out his immunity. So before I kick off, I know a lot of you are from different parts of the world. And so I want to know where you guys are from. So I am a Malaysian, okay, and I married a Singaporean, and I live in Singapore. So for those of you who are from Singapore, can you please type S onto the chat box? Okay. Erica is from Singapore. Okay. Shakila, Adeline, Jen. Great. So we have a lot of Singaporeans here. Okay. For those who are Malaysians, I don't know how many of you are Malaysians here. I am Malaysian. I'm a Malaysian citizen, but a Singaporean in terms of PR. So if you're a Malaysian, type M. Penny is from Malaysia. Eric is from Malaysia. Is from Canada. Okay. I used to live in China, okay, for 6.5 years. And that was when I was first introduced to essential oils. I lived in China for 6.5 years, but I commuted to Hong Kong on a regular basis. So for those of you who are China, Hong Kong, can you just please type C? Fred. Hi, Fred. Hi, Raymond. Okay, thanks for joining us all the way from China and Hong Kong. Right. So I used to dive. See, I'm a scuba diver. I used to dive in Australia. Joelle told me previously that there are Australians here. So if there are Australians here, type A. Okay. Oh, Sherry, you're from Australia. And I lived in the UK for 10 years. I live in the UK and I have a permanent resident in the UK. So I don't know, Vodaphone is actually a UK company. And I know this company, when I was staying in the UK, when I worked and studied there. So if you're from the UK, I don't know, it's the wrong time zone, that you're probably still sleeping if you're in the UK, but if you're from the UK, type U. Oh, Simon, you're from the UK. What time is it there? Wow. You must be up really early. Oh, UK, but you live in Singapore. All right, that's great. Thank you guys for participating. Right. Okay, so I shared a bit about my story of how I actually got into aromatherapy because of my kids. But the second part of the story, I would love to share with you guys as well, because it's actually related to our brain health. And the second part of the story of how I actually went into the line of being an aromatherapist, is because during that season when my son was sick, I lost someone close to me due to leukemia. Okay, and she was actually a helper, and I love her to bits. And so her death really impacted me. And during that season, as you know, as a part-time helper, she was a part-time helper, came to my house 3 times a week for 2 hours. And being a helper, you are constantly going to different parts of different houses to clean, and you'll be exposed to strong chemicals, right? And so during that season, I used really, really strong chemicals. How many of you actually have used toilet duck? Toilet duck. Are you guys familiar with toilet duck? Yeah, if you are, just type yes. Yeah. And if you have used toilet duck, you know what I mean. You squirt the toilet duck into the toilet bowl, the smell, the fumes. The smell, the fumes. Let me just mute some people first. Okay.
Karen, sorry to disturb. If you could give me host access or co-host, I can help you with that.
Okay, sure. Let me just give Penny make co-host. Okay. Thank you, Penny. Thank you so much.
No problems, no problem.
Okay, so if you're familiar with toilet duck, you know how it smells. Okay, it's really, really strong. So what I used to do is that I put the toilet duck there and I leave it in there and I close the door. I'll close my toilet door and wait it out and say, okay, when it's not as smelly, I'll go back in there. It's not as strong. So it will give me a headache. Toilet duck gives me a headache. And I use those chemicals, really strong chemicals. And why I share this story is because toxic chemicals can affect our brain health. When we talk about brain health, we're looking at our memory. And we are going to look at it a bit later, how these toxic chemicals can cause our neurons, our receptor sites to die faster, okay? And it can cause us to have brain fog. So how many of you can resonate with me, the fact that when you put a toilet duck in, it smells really strong and you just like, you know what, it smells strong, it cleans well. As long as it cleans well, it doesn't matter. And I close the door. If you resonate with me, yes, you see, thank you, for, sharing, Simon, Frank, Erica, Eric. Thank you, for participating. Yeah. So that's what I did last time. And I didn't know better, right? So in today's talk, okay, that's my story. But in today's talk, what we're gonna look at is we're gonna look at what an unhealthy brain looks like. Okay, an unhealthy brain. What does it look like? What causes us to have failing memory? What causes us to lose focus? And what causes us to have being irritable? Okay, what contributes to an unhealthy brain? Why? And what are essential oils? Why do we need to use it? And how do I use essential oils to complement and improve my productivity and focus? All right. And then later, we're going to open up the floor to have a bit of question and answer. Okay. So what does an unhealthy brain look like? We're going to look at these 3 things in detail. Okay. Unhealthy brain, memory issues, unable to focus, and being irritable. So when we have a failing memory or we are unable to focus, all these leads to a decline in productivity, right? Okay, so what does an unhealthy brain look like? Okay, I have actually put a picture up there. I don't know how many of you, let me just go back there first, okay? So how many of you actually struggles, when we talk about memory issues, do you find that as you grow older, you tend to forget a bit more? You tend to find that your short-term memory seems to decline. And we're not talking about pregnancy brain when we look at memory, okay? Because truly when you have, when you just give birth to a kid, you lose a bit of gray matters and your memory decrease. And we're not talking about people who have permanent genetic issues that causes the memory to fail. Okay, so memory. Okay, so we look at what is a healthy brain. Okay, look at, I've put a picture up there. I know that none of us are, have Alzheimer's disease, but what I've put in there is to allow you to see the extremities. And when you know how extreme things are, it gives you a better idea, a clearer idea. Okay, and when we when we talk about Alzheimer's, it doesn't happen overnight. Alzheimer's happens over 10 to 20 years, and it is a growing problem in the world. See, in Singapore, MOH has stated that 1 in 10 elderly suffers from Alzheimer's disease, and it is the 5th leading cause of disability, right? But what actually happens to our brains that causes to, forget things a bit more as we age? See, we look at that unhealthy brain there, Alzheimer's, severe Alzheimer's. You look at the brain structure, they are very, very different. And what actually happens over the years is that our brain, our neurons, our brain are comprised of nerve cells, neurons, and receptor sites. These starts to die. Okay, these starts to die. And when it starts to die, and if they are unable to communicate effectively, our memory deteriorates. But for the Alzheimer case, it's slightly different, because what happens with an Alzheimer's patient is that in the Alzheimer's brain, there is a protein structure. The protein will actually coat those cells. It suffocates the cells, and it blocks the cells from signaling. Okay, so I know a lot of you are Asians here, and recently I did a talk at Rotary Club with the elderlies, and I asked them this question. Okay, what food? We know that as we age, our brains tend to lose our memory. What food, can I ask you guys, what food helps with brain health? What food helps with brain health? And then later, I'm going to ask you what herbs. And when I asked those elderly, they were able to tell me what herbs were good for it. So I'm going to test this crowd today. So what food and what herbs helps with brain health? Rosemary. Wow, you guys are great. Fan, yes, rosemary. Okay, rosemary. Okay, rosemary has been shown to actually improve brain health. There's a lot of research. Okay, and we're gonna look at it. Why rosemary? We're gonna cover a bit of the science of it as to why rosemary. Okay, and one of the things about rosemary, okay, I'm just gonna share this slide, is that yeah, all those are really good. Walnut, and I remember when I was actually in China, they always tell you eat walnut, and because they have a lot of high fatty acids in walnut as well. And then of course in the Chinese, they talk about the ginkgo nuts, the ginkgo nuts as well. So walnut is great, is because it's high in the omega-3 and fatty contents, and we're going to look at that about the brain structure a bit later. Okay, the thing about rosemary is that it has this, what we call, I don't know if you can see the screen, actually it's quite small, but what I wanted to do here is that I just wanted to post up there some of the papers, science papers. So for example, if you look at the bottom left, it talks about how rosemary has one of the chemical components called 1,8-sinyl-L, and that has the same effect as drugs. But with essential oils, the difference is that you have less side effect compared to drugs. And drugs will never be able to replicate essential oils. My sister is a chemist, and she heads the research in a big MNC in Malaysia. And she would tell me, they will never be able to fully analyze essential oils because they're so complex. They're so complex, it would be impossible to duplicate it. Therefore, what you have with drugs and what you have with plants and herbs are very, very different. Okay, and so you say, Karen, so why can't I just buy rosemary plants and just hang it, and just smell those? Okay, so how many rosemary plants, dried plants, can you smell? But in actual fact, a rosemary dried herb is actually different from the essential oils, because when you extract the essential oils, you have what we call the 1,8-sinyl, and you won't get that from a dried herb. Okay, and that is the difference. And when you inhale essential oils, those molecules are so small that it passes our blood-brain barrier, which we're going to talk about a bit later. Okay, the other thing that actually people don't realize is cinnamon. If you look at on the right-hand side, is cinnamon. Cinnamon is known to enhance our brain memory. And this research was done on an Alzheimer's patient. So cinnamon actually enhanced the memory. Okay, yeah, we're gonna look at frankincense oil a bit later and why that helps us to support our focus, right? Okay, the next one, if you remember the earlier chart, we're going to talk about three things. One is memory. The second one is what is an unhealthy brain? It's the loss of memory. And the second one is unable to focus, right? Unable to focus. I don't know how many of you, find that our thoughts are all over the place. Are you one of those people that, my thoughts are all over the place? I cannot seem to concentrate. I cannot seem to sit down and think. There's so many distractions. And there's some people struggles with brain fog. I said, I don't know what happened recently. Over the coming months, I seem to not be able to think straight. I can't seem to have mental clarity to solve problems. And then I'll come back to you and ask you the question, is it because of your environment? Okay, and we're going to cover environment and toxic environment in a bit. Okay, and and there are people who find that their creativity seems to be blocked, and they just struggle to make a clear decision. And I like to bring the extreme end here as well. People with ADHD. Okay, people with ADHD has a brain defect. Okay, their brains are slightly smaller, and certain parts of the brain are slightly smaller, and therefore they are unable to focus. In fact, recently I did a talk on ADHD and helping ADHD kids and to support their focus. And in that talk, and I shared with them one of my people that I work with, one of my clients that came to me and said, Karen, I'm really struggling with these kids. The family was struggling with sleep because the kids was waking up at night, and they struggled with the hyperactivity of this kid. And I said, what can we do? So I went in and said, okay, these are the oils that helps him with the sleep. Okay, these are the oils. So, okay, the oils solved his sleep problem. He managed to sleep through the night. But we also incorporate other routines into his schedule. So we said, okay, before he goes to school, let's put a drop of lime essential oils onto his spine. And then we're going to rotate the oils. We're going to put lime one day, lavender the other day. Okay? And over a course of 3 months, this mom was really diligent. She continued the schedule, continued the routine a few times a day. And over the course of 3 months, the teacher came to the parents and said, what did you do? What did you do with this child? Because he's a transformed kid, his grades improved. He was willing to sit down. He was willing to study. And one of the main difference that his mom noticed within the second week was that I don't know how many of you have ADHD kids or experience with ADHD kids, they love to run. They're super hyperactive. They need to burn off the energy, right? They love to run. And so one of the difference that the mom found was that when she within the second week, the kid was actually walking instead of running when they go out. And that was the first difference that she saw, right? And there's another story. And I love to share stories because by stories, you can actually remember. And just now someone mentioned, Fanny mentioned frankincense oil, okay? And there's another story, and this another friend came up to me and said, PSLE, my kids are having PSLE. And in Singapore, PSLE is a big thing, okay? It's not just stressful for the kids, but stressful for the parents as well. So she started diffusing certain oils that helps with focus. So in there's cedarwood, frankincense, sandalwood, but in there's actually one oil called Melissa, lemon balm. And that is a very, very, very powerful oil. So she was diffusing that for a week. And one day she forgot. And the kid came up to her mom and said that, you know what, mom, can you start diffusing it again? Because somehow it helps me to focus better. So, and I love that blend as well. I love that blend as well because it helps me to focus. And for some reason, it helps me to ground me down. Okay. A lot of times when we have our thoughts all over the place, we need some grounding. And when we talk about grounding, if you can just picture with me, okay, picture with me what oils are grounding. Can you just take a guess? What oils will ground you down beside frankincense? What oils ground you down? Can you take a guess? Or what plants will ground you down? Okay, so when I talk about grounding, I like to picture big trees, all right? Big trees with deep roots, okay? Big trees with deep roots. And these are the plants or essential oils that will also help us to ground us down. But with things like frankincense, which we're gonna even look at it a bit later, they have a certain chemical component called terpenes, okay? And terpenes helps to circulate, brings about circulation in our body. And when you bring circulation into our body, it actually oxygenates our brain and helps us to focus, right? Okay. All right. How many of you can relate to this picture? Are you on the person on the left or the person on the right? Do you feel more like the person on the left or do you feel more like the person on the right, especially with COVID? Are you stressed? Are you frustrated? And thank you, Eric, for sharing. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Fred. Yeah, left. Yes. And you know, if you're working from home, you probably feel like the person on the left most of the time. Okay. If you have kids, you know, you'll be pulled left, right, and center, you know, and you feel like the person on the left. And not just that, the lack of communication, the lack of just going down to see your colleagues and just have a chit chat, you feel frustrated, okay? A lot of times we feel frustrated. And when we are frustrated, it affects our productivity, right? And it gives us mental block as well. And our creativity gets affected as well when we get frustrated. And so essential oils really helps as well, is because like it helps to change the environment that we are working in. Oh, Simon, you're on the right. That's great. You know, and Sam as well. That's great. Okay. So what essential oils helps is that it helps to create a conducive environment. So whenever we are stressed, it helps to calm us down. It helps to perk us up. Okay. For me, I love to put essential oils when I work because it perks me up. Okay. And we're gonna look at it later. There's a study done by a Japanese company that lemon essential oils can actually improve productivity, accuracy by 54%. Yeah. So essential oils are very, very powerful. Okay. What we looked at, what an unhealthy brain looks like. So what do you think contributes to an unhealthy brain? What do you think contributes to an unhealthy brain? Take a wild guess. Sleep deprivation, you're absolutely correct. You know, Fan. Toxic environment, yes, because I mentioned that earlier as well. Poor diet, poor environment, yes, Simon. Yeah, so all those contribute to an unhealthy brain, okay? And it is all because our brain is inflamed, okay? Here, we're not gonna look at a comprehensive list. As I said, I'm not gonna look at the genetic and epigenetic. This is not a comprehensive list, but I'm picking up 4 things, okay? Inflammation. Inflammation is the cause of an unhealthy brain, okay? We don't want our bodies to be inflamed. We don't want our brains to be inflamed. But like what you guys mentioned, what are the things that causes inflammation? Food, toxic environment, lifestyle habits, and stress, right? So as the saying goes, we are what we eat, okay? If we feed our body junks, highly processed food, it gives us brain fog. So how many of you have had like a McDonald's meal or a highly processed meal and then you feel like sluggish? I don't feel like working. I feel sleepy. Yeah. So food. So when we feed our body junks, right? We are not feeding our cells. Our cells are not being fed well. And if they're not fed well, they're not able to function well, and it affects our brains. Yeah. Our brain is made out of 60% of fats. How many out of that 60%, how many of it is omega-3? Can you tell me how many percentage out of that 60% is omega-3? A wild guess. No, I mean, there's a right answer, but give me a wild guess. Okay, 60% of fats, but omega-3 is very, very important to our brains. So how many percentage of that is omega-3? 75%. 50%. Okay, 35%. It probably is not 60% actually. I mean, 60% of our brain, but 35% of it is actually omega-3. And we need to actually feed our brains with feed our body with omega-3 is because omega-3 is harder to find in our food source. So omega-6 is abundantly available in our vegetable oils and in a lot of food we eat. So if you can actually supplement your diet with omega-3, let's say if you look at your eggs, look at those enriched with omega-3. Try to get omega-3 into your diet. And up there, I also said that vitamin B, D, and zinc deficiency is linked to a decrease in brain function. And in fact, if you are actually lacking in vitamin B, your stress, your cortisol level will also be higher. So for example, if you're constantly stressed, do take vitamin B because that helps to decrease your stress, helps with the stress management, okay? Okay, hope you didn't see the next slide. So a lot of us are working from home, and I'm gonna ask you guys a question. How many of you think that the indoor air is more toxic or the outdoor air? Okay, if you think that the indoor air is more toxic, and this is important because a lot of us are working from home, is the indoor air more toxic or the outdoor air? So if you think it's indoor, type indoor. If you think it's outdoor, type outdoor. Just had salmon for lunch. Salmon is great, Eric. Yeah. Indoor. Indoor, okay? Right. Yeah. Indoor air is 2 to 5 times more toxic than outdoor air. And this is especially true if you're living in, like, let's say Hong Kong or Singapore, where the house is a lot smaller and the house is not ventilated. And therefore, the chemical stays within the house. So next question, what do you think are some of the main contributors to toxic air in the house? What do you think is a contributor, or one of the biggest contributor to toxic air in the household? Aircon. Aircon, because there's no circulation, right? But besides aircon, what else contributes to the toxic air in the home? TVs, dust. Yeah, dust is also in it. Yeah, dust plays a part, and that's why a lot of people have allergies, develop allergies. Okay, so what contributes? Okay, I hope you guys are not surprised by seeing that. Kitchen is one of the biggest contributors to the indoor air pollution, right? When I did this research, I was really surprised, but you can actually look at the article there as well as to why. I've put a link down there as to why kitchen is one of the biggest contributors to the toxic air. A lot of our cooking films actually contain like nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and a lot of it is actually carcinogenic. Okay, and there actually has been a research to show that people who are constantly exposed to these toxic, kitchen fumes, especially if you deep fry. If you deep fry a lot, they have an increased risk of respiratory cancer. Therefore, deep fry less, or make sure your house is actually well ventilated. Okay. And then the second one, of course, you talk about my toilet duct incident. The toilets, okay, the toilets also plays a big part because of not just the toilets, but the chemicals that we use. Like, somebody mentioned Clorox. Clorox, yeah, I don't use Clorox because it burns my throat, okay? It burns my throat. So chemicals that we use to clean our house plays a big part. And you see here, okay? How many of you have all these products, one of these products? I know this is not a Singaporean, some of these products are not Singaporean, okay? But you get the gist of the idea. Lysol is my toilet duct, and there's Clorox there. And because these chemicals have phthalates, parabens, and lead, and what happens when we inhale these products, these chemicals, is that it actually damages the receptor sites in our brains. When we looked at healthy brain just now. We talk about a lot of neurons. Our brains have neurons, receptors. But when we inhale this, it's not just damaging our lungs. It can actually damage the receptor sites in our brains. Yeah. And when our body is loaded with toxin, it stresses our body out. It stresses our body out because they're so busy trying to get rid of this toxin. And when they are stressed out, it accelerates the rate at which our nerve and brain cells degrade and dies. Okay, that's why I said Alzheimer doesn't happen overnight. It's an accumulation of what we do to our body. Okay, the neuron cells slowly get starved of nutrients. The neuron cells and receptor sites gets, dies slowly, communicates less effectively, and it's accumulation effect. So what essential oils does is it revives the cells. Okay, how are you going to revive the cells? You'll be like, Karen, you're crazy, you're going to completely mad. How can it revive our cells? And we're going to look at that. Okay, I'm going to tell you why and how. It acts as an antioxidant. Okay, it acts as an antioxidant, and you'll be surprised later at the end of my talk. I'll show you a chart at the antioxidant properties of essential oils. Okay, and the one thing that we tend to miss out as well is that the products that we put on our skin. A lot of people think, oh, toxic environment is just what we inhale. But actually our skin is the largest organ in our body. And we absorb what we put on our skin, all right? We absorb what we put on our skin. And therefore women are, because this is from the EWG website, and it talks about women puts on average 168 chemicals on our skin daily. Are you shocked by that? Yeah. If you haven't looked at your skincare products, go home. Go home now, turn over, read the labels, read the ingredient list. It's paraben in one of the ingredients there. It's synthetic colorings or it's synthetic fragrance, one of it there. And phthalates, okay? And if you want to, just Google, go home, don't believe me, Google dangers of parabens, dangers of phthalates. And you would think that, all my skincare products are like big brands, they should have enough research to protect our skin. One product is okay. If you're just using one product with parabens, it's okay. But what we have in our daily lives, we're not just talking about one product. We are constantly exposed to parabens in a lot of products. So my sister, as a chemist, again, tell me, Karen, yeah, but they are supposed to be like 2%, of the formula is considered safe. When you accumulate a few 2%, it's no longer safe. Okay, it's no longer safe. It accumulates in our body. And our body is constantly stressed, trying to get rid of these chemicals. Yeah. Okay, someone mentioned earlier that about lifestyle. Okay, sleep, alcohol. Okay, I'm not going to even go to alcohol because you know what alcohol does to your brains. When you drink alcohol, you are able to think properly. Okay, but lack of sleep, that is a big issue. A lot of people struggles with insomnia. They struggles with sleep, and that's a big industry altogether. And when you're unable to sleep well, not only does it affect your immune health, it actually affects you in terms of your ability to focus, mental clarity, and brain fog. And the third one is lack of exercise. Okay, when we have a lack of movement in our body, there's stagnation. And when you are stagnant, your cells are unable to communicate effectively. You want your cells to actually be always on the ball, right? You want movement in your body. And that's where essential oils comes in as well. It's because it brings circulation. It brings the movement that you need, similar to what exercise does. So for example, like, I don't know how many of you exercise a lot. How many of you exercise a lot? And when you exercise, do you find that you're able to have a mindset, that you're able to think clearer? So when I was in the UK, one of my bosses, he used to run a lot. He runs a lot because he said, Carrie, after an exercise session, I'll be able to think clearer. And I can't agree with him more. For me, after an exercise period, not only am I feeling a lot lighter, but I'm able to be more productive. Okay. And essential oils can generate that circulation. that movement in our body. Okay, but it doesn't mean that you don't exercise. Yeah, you do need to exercise as well. Okay, and the one, stress. Okay, the fourth one is stress. And stress is a silent killer. Do you know that stress, just with stress alone, is linked, it affects our health. It affects every part of our body in terms of our health. Okay, and in there, I had an article by Forbes that said that stress is the silent killer here. Business, the world's. So when you are stressed, it affects our productivity. When you are stressed, you get sick more, right? When you're stressed, that means when you get sick more, there's higher MCs that you have. Therefore, it affects the productivity. When we are burned out, and this is very common in a lot of countries, you know, like Japan and Singapore, when you actually experience burnout, it affects the work performance. When you are stressed, you're unable to make a decision clearly. It affects your creativity. So what actually happens to our cells when we are stressed? When we are stressed, our cells is actually deprived of oxygen and nutrients. Our cells dies off. You know, like just now we look at a healthy brain and unhealthy brain. If you guys can just visualize again with me. When you are stressed, right, our body, that part of the brain, you know, is deprived of oxygen. And over time, chronic stress causes inflammation, and then our body stops performing optimally. And therefore, essential oils helps to oxygenate the cells, calms us down, and create a conducive environment for us to work in. Yeah. Okay, then you say, Karen, but how can I, you know, why is essential oils able to do all that? So when you think about essential oils, right, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? You know, what's the first thing that comes, what picture comes to your mind when you think about essential oils? What do you think it helps you with? Maybe you can just type in the chat box. What does it help you with when you think about essential oils? And you'll be probably thinking, Karen, how does all this work? How does essential oils do all that? Yeah. And if it's the first time you're hearing all this from, you know, from someone, type yes. It's the first time you hear that essential oils can do all that. Type yes if this is the first time you think you've heard somebody talk about essential oils in such a way. Yes, right. Okay. So a lot of times when we think about essential oils, the first thing for me previously, okay, the first thing that comes to my mind is the spa. It smells good. It makes me feel good. It helps to relax me. But at that time, I didn't know that essential oils can do all that. Yeah, I didn't think that essential oils can boost immunity. I didn't think essential oils can help with our physical health and emotional health. I didn't think that way. Yeah. And, you know, in fact, I don't blame you, because a lot of times when we buy essential oils out in the market, is the thing about essential oils is that it's not a regulated industry. It's not regulated by in the US, it's not regulated by the FDA, which is the Food Drugs Administration. It's not a regulated industry. But if you look at the flip side of it, okay, I want to make it relatable to you. So if you look at closer to the Asian culture, the TCM. How many of you goes to the TCM? How many of you visit the TCM, which is the traditional Chinese medicine, right? Type yes if you type 1 if you visit the TCM, yeah. And I know some of you are from Korea here, so the Korean would have their own Korean medicine, right? They'll have their own Korean medicine, and what they do is that effectively they're using plants and herbs to help to support the body system, to help support their wellness. So, and even if you look at India, okay, if you look at India, they uses herbs, the Ayurvedic, they use a lot of herbs to help with the wellness. And I remember a friend who went to the Middle East. I know there's some people from Dubai here. And she said, you know, when I talk to the people in the Middle East, they say that if someone is sick, they do not reach out to the doctors immediately. What do? They actually look at what they have in terms of the herbs, in terms of, like, let's say frankincense, you know, in terms of all that. And they look at that and say, how can I help my body get better with these herbs? So in actual fact, using herbs and plants are a common thing, okay? But what happens over the years is that people commercialize essentials. So essential oils are actually distilled from herbs and plants, right? They are distilled from herbs and plants. But over the years, people have commercialized it in such a way that it loses its therapeutic properties. When it loses, it's more for pleasure, like going to the spas. It is more for lifestyle. It smells good. It makes my house smells good. People commercialize it to make it into a perfume and said, hey, you know, it smells good. And therefore it loses its essence of what it has been used traditionally. Okay, I talked about the Chinese medicine, the TCM, and the dried herbs. One of the difference between the TCM and essential oils is that essential oils are very, very potent. They are 100 to 1,000 times more potent than herbs. Okay, one drop of peppermint essential oils is equivalent to how many cups of tea? Can you guess? One drop of peppermint oil, how many cups of tea is it equivalent to? Make a wild guess. Make a wild guess. One drop of peppermint essential oils in your water is equivalent to how many cups of peppermint tea? 500 cups. Okay, that's a bit too much. Okay, Simon. Okay, 27 cups, right? 27 cups. That's how potent one drop is. Okay, one drop of essential oils is so potent that it covers each cell. Yeah, we're not talking about it has each cell in our body with 40,000 molecules, just one drop. Okay, one drop can cover each cell, and we have a lot of cells in our body with 40,000 molecules. And if you go and buy essential oils out in the market, right, and it feels oily, that is not essential oil. Okay, essential oils are not oily. Your olive oil is oily. Your vegetable oils are oily, but not essential oils. Okay, essential oils are not oily. They evaporate very, very, very quickly, and therefore, one of the things that when a perfume companies, let's say if they use essential oils to scent their perfume or to make their perfume, they need to add an additive in there to prolong the scent. They need to add an additive in there because essential oils evaporates very quickly, especially if you look at your citrus oils. Okay, oils that are heavier in constituent, like your frankincense, will not evaporate as fast. But let's say your lemon, your orange, it evaporates very, very fast. Okay, essential oils are more versatile than your herbs, your dried herbs, because one oil alone can have many, many functions. So for example, lavender. Okay, lavender has so many functions. What do y'all use lavender for? You know, lavender is one of the most common oils. Can you all type there? What do you use lavender for? What do you think lavender can be used for? De-stress, sleep better. Yeah. Calming, make you sleepy. Okay, but let me tell you how I use lavender. All right. So a lot of you use lavender for its mood, but how do I use lavender? I use lavender for my cuts. So let's say if I have a cut, right, I will dilute my lavender and apply the cut on the cut because lavender has antiseptic properties. Lavender, there's a lot of research on lavender and how it helps with burns. So let's say somebody has burned their hands, they can dilute the lavender and apply around the burns. Lavender helps with cramps. Let's say if I have a cramp, it helps with cramps. Okay, and in fact, and you'll be surprised to know, lavender helps to stimulate hair follicles. Yeah. So for those people who are losing hair, in one of the recipes for a hair serum, lavender is used to stimulate hair follicles. Yeah. So lavender is what we call the Swiss Army knife and has many, many functions. So that's one of the difference as well, because with dried herbs, usually you eat it. Okay, you eat dried herbs or drink dried herbs, things bought with dried herbs. But with essential oils, it's versatile because you not just inhale it for our emotions, for our immune system. So lavender has high in antimicrobial and antiviral properties. And therefore, in fact, I turned around my son's health with just lavender, okay? Because it's a good immune oil and a very, very safe oil for kids. So lavender is very versatile, okay? And you can inhale it, apply it topically, like how I did it for the cuts, and So it's more versatile than just dried herbs, right? And what the essential oils are, like I mentioned earlier, is distilled from plants, different parts of the plants. It can be the flower, it can be the bark, it can be the roots, right? And what it does essentially is that essential oils, like, okay, visualize with me. When you cut your orange, right, and you smell the essence, that is essential oils. Okay, the essence that you smell when you cut an orange, that's essential oils. When I was in the UK, when I walk into a forest of pine trees, when you smell that, that is essential oils. Okay, and what essential oils encapsulate those scents into a bottle by distilling it. Okay, but what essential oils does for the plants is that it protects, heals, and repels predators. Protects. I don't know how many of you are familiar. I mean, some of you are from Dubai, but let's say familiar with rubber tapping. How many of you know how rubber is obtained? I mean, for those who are in Singapore or Malaysia will probably be able to answer me better. How many of you know how we tap rubber? How do we obtain rubber? How do we obtain rubber? Okay, so rubber, we obtain rubber by cutting the trees, yeah? You cut the tree, right? You cut the bark, yeah? And then you comes up with a liquid. That liquid is effectively healing the plant from the cut. So likewise for frankincense. Frankincense is actually a very, very big tree. I wish I put a picture up here. It's a very, very big tree. And what they do with frankincense is they cut the frankincense bark, okay? And then they will come up with the sap. The sap is supposed to protect and heal that plant. And they will take that sap, distill it, and come up with a frankincense oil. So effectively, essential oils are supposed to heal the plant, protects the plant, and repels bugs. Okay. So for example, let's say a mosquito repellent. Okay. Some of the natural mosquito repellents you find outside has like lemongrass, citronella. It repels bugs. So that is what some plants does. It's smelly, so that it repels your predators. So what the plants does for itself is able to do for us in our body. Okay. And earlier I talked about how this is not a regulated industry, and therefore you have all sorts of quality in the market. And so in the industry, they only classify as pure or not pure. Okay. But what I've done here is that I want to give you a picture that even if it's pure, right, there's a whole range of quality. Okay, we're not going to look at D. D is where we talk about it's a synthetic, sometimes perfume are there. C, D is totally synthetic. There's no essential oils in it. C is what we talked about earlier, that is perfume, but what they do is they mix it with chemicals to either increase the volume or to make it last longer, because essential oils will evaporate, within 5 minutes to 1 hour. Okay, depending on what type of essential oils. So then next we look at B and A, all right? B and A. So you have your pure organic and then your A. So how many of you have gone to buy Chinese herbs? Okay, I love to use the Chinese herbs analogies because it's closer to home, and I hope that you guys can relate to it. Okay, so when you go to a Chinese shop, right, you look at your ginseng. So your ginseng, right, even though there's, you will have a whole range of ginseng for all sorts of different prices, right? And there is a difference. There is a difference, your ginseng A, quality grade A to grade C or grade D or whatever. There is a difference because even when you buy a grade C or a grade D, the therapeutic effect will be very, very different. So when we look at essential oils, it's similar. A grade B, it may be grown organically, it may pass all the tests, but it may not have what we call all the molecules, all the chemical components that you need to help with our wellness. So you may be able to get a big grade B, it works okay. But if you want it to work better, then you'll go with grade A. And why I say that is because, distilling essential oils is a very, very complex thing. All right. It's not just that, okay, I go and buy, I'll just harvest it, make sure that the fertilizers that I use is considered organic. I test a lot of different brands. Okay, I go through a lot of different brands, right? And in my physical workshops, I will present all this stuff, all these different oils in front of the people. And they would be able to tell me, when they smell bottle A, bottle B, and bottle C, that, bottle C, I smell a metallic smell in there. It's a good brand, it's a big brand, but I can smell something off about it. It's a metallic smell. And that's probably because of the pesticide that they use, even though it's organic. But what pesticide, nowadays, organic is a very loose term. Yeah, organic is a very loose term. And not just that, the science of distillation is complex. It's because when you harvest a plant matters. So for example, jasmine plant. Jasmine plant is peak potency. Jasmine has to be hand plucked, first of all. Okay, jasmine has to be hand plucked so that it's not to destroy the flower and the scent that it carries. Jasmine has a peak period of 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. If they pass that peak period of harvesting, it loses some of its components, chemical components that is supposed to benefit our health, right? And same goes with ilang ilang. Okay, for example, ilang ilang. For perfume grade, it only takes 1 hour to distill the perfume grade ilang ilang. But if you want to use it for your health purposes, it has to be distilled over 12 hours. So as you distill over the length of time, you're able to extract those chemical components that you want to support your health. Yeah. So that's why a lot of times when you think about essential oils, it's really like what you see in the shop is for lifestyle purposes. But if you want to go a bit deeper, there's a lot more to it. And it supports our health physically and emotionally, right? Okay, so how does essential oils help? Okay, and I put down 4 points here. Our factory is just basically our nose, just a big bombastic term. It's closely connected to our limbic system. It helps support our emotions. Yeah. Make a guess. When we inhale something, how fast does it reach our brain? Make a guess. When we inhale essential oils, how fast does it reach our brain? Within 3 seconds, it reaches our brain. Okay. Within 3 seconds, it reaches our limbic system. Okay, our brains. And our brains, our limbic system, contains receptor sites that controls our hunger, emotions, memory, and regulates our anxiety and even our hormones. Okay, within 3 seconds, it reaches our brains. Within 2 minutes, it's in our bloodstream. And within 20 minutes, it's in every single cell of our body. Okay, and therefore it is a really, really powerful way to help in terms of emotions. We talk about the unhealthy brain and the healthy brain, and one of it is stress. Okay, stress and irritation, anger, frustration, and that's where essential oils actually helps, because it reaches our brain and able to calm us down almost immediately. It actually can help you curb hunger. So for those of you who has like midnight snacks, cravings, diffuse grapefruit oil, grapefruit or peppermint, it actually helps to decrease and curb your hunger and your sweet tooth as well. Okay, essential oils are able to provide mental clarity as well. Yeah. Okay, wait up. Okay. Right. So earlier I was talking about the other thing that essential oils does is that it helps to actually, okay. So second one is it brings circulation and helps to bring oxygen in our cells, right? It helps with circulation and brings oxygen to our cell. All right. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Simon. And it brings oxygen and it helps to so in Japan, there was this company, okay, this Takasago is a big fragrance company, and what they did is that they actually started to diffuse lemon essential oils. They wanted to do this research, and they found that when they started to diffuse essential oils, there were less errors, and the people, those who inhaled essential oils had less errors. And those people who studied, there was another study in 2005 that when they inhaled lavender, it helped with productivity. Yeah, helps with productivity. Okay, so I'm going to just really zoom past this because it's actually just a couple of slides more. And we talk a bit about the blood-brain barrier, right? We talk about the blood-brain barrier. And our blood-brain barrier, I don't know how many of you knows what is a blood-brain barrier. And the blood-brain barrier is what's is there to stop dangerous stuff from entering our brains. And essential oils are so small, they have this component called terpenes that crosses the brain barrier to support the brain nerves. Okay, it crosses the brain barrier. And when we talk about when it crosses the brain barrier to help the brain, it oxygenates it. Like for example, rosemary. Rosemary brings oxygen into our body. So for those people with high blood pressure, we always say be careful with rosemary because it brings a lot of circulation. It may increase your high blood. So be careful if you actually have high blood. Yeah. So it oxygenates the brain and supports our nerve cells. And when it's able to pass through the blood-brain barrier, it's actually able to revive those cells that has been dying. Okay, because it brings oxygen. That chemical component terpenes brings oxygen to the brain. Yeah. And then, all right, and then second last slide. All right. Then the other one I talk about is the antioxidant properties. So when you eat fruits, right, what is the food highest in antioxidant? And type in the chat box, what are food highest in antioxidant? Berries, okay? So food that's high in antioxidant are your berries, are your vitamin E rather than vitamin C. Vitamin E has a higher antioxidant rating, vitamin E, okay? But if you look at, I'm gonna just show you this chart, okay? Vitamin E. If you look at this chart here, okay, blueberries has this is an ORAC rating. ORAC rating is what they use to measure the antioxidant level in each of the fruit. So ORAC for vitamin E is 3003 and strawberries is 1005. But if you look on the left-hand side, and we see actually your clove essential oil there, and it has 1 million. Yeah, there's 1 million there. And that's why it's so powerful. And helps to why we need antioxidants is because of the free radicals in our body and helps to slow down the aging process. It helps to clean up the free radicals in our body. Yeah. So in summary, just give me a moment. So in summary, to provide productivity and mental health, you need a healthy brain. Okay, a healthy brain, we need to incorporate lifestyle changes. Okay, in terms of food, exercise, environment, and our essential oils. Essential oils is both a tool and support system for a healthy brain. Yeah, and when we talk about a healthy brain, we look at why is a tool. Just now we look at the antioxidant. It slows down aging. Essential oils is able to bring circulation. It helps with memory. It supports our emotions in terms of stress because oxidative stress causes our brain cells to die faster and our neurons to stop communicating as effectively. Helps with anxiety. It supports our sleep. And then, of course, it creates a conducive environment in terms of a non-toxic environment. Yeah. Okay, so how do you use essential oils to improve brain health? You inhale it, wear it as a diffuser, wear it as a perfume, and you can make a diluted roll and roll on your temple. Okay. So I know a lot of you have to drop off now. So that's the end of my slide. So if you guys have any questions, then do feel free to ask the questions. And if you want to contact me, and here's the details if you want to contact me. Yeah. So I'm going to hand the time over back to Joelle.
Hi, everyone. Do you have any questions to actually ask Karen? Okay, so let's say if you are shy, right, you can always actually email me. So I will be dropping Serena an email shortly regarding about the Mooncake Festival. So let's say if you guys have any questions, you guys can let me know again. And if you have any questions to ask Karen, you can always use the QR code scanner to actually ask her further questions. Okay. So yeah. Let's say if there's no questions, we can end the session and hope you guys enjoy your lunch. Okay.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Karen, for this very enlightening experience of understanding essential oil.
No
Thank you,
problem,
and hope that
Erica.
we can work together again.
Sure, no
Thank
problem.
you.
Thank you so much, Erica.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay,
Be safe,
bye-bye.
everyone.
Stay
Thank you.
safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, thank you guys. I'm just gonna end this. So I'm just gonna end you guys. So you guys gonna be kicked out.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Karen.
Okay, goodbye, people.